Well, you heard Trent say it. With temperatures this high, it's hard to stay indoors. But sometimes we forget kids can overheat and go into heat exhaustion without even realizing it. So we wanted to learn more about the signs and learn ways families can still enjoy the outdoors while staying safe. We're joined now by Dr. Arthur Lavin, a pediatrician at Akron's Children's Hospital. Dr. Lavin, thank you so much for your time and joining us this morning. I wanted to ask you first, what are you seeing so far this summer? Are we doing a good job staying safe?
Well, I think we've had a pretty mild summer. Your meteorology crew has been doing a great job of alerting us to when heat gets dangerous. So far, we haven't seen a lot of heat exhaustion, heat stroke. Fortunately, kids regulate that a little better than elderly people. The greatest danger, though, is I hope your viewers know, is keeping kids in closed cars. That's where kids really get into the most trouble with heat. And the other is with overexertion without adequate hydration.
Got it. That makes sense. So what should we be doing to protect ourselves? I know you mentioned a lot, hydration. So lots of water, of course. What else?
Well, the number one thing to do is never leave your child alone in a sealed car. Even at 70 degrees, which isn't very hot in the summer, at a 70-degree world will heat up a car to 120 degrees in a matter of minutes. And then, the body can only take so much heat. If you heat up the body too much, you can't keep it at 98.6 anymore. And then the temperature starts sailing up to 105 degrees. Skin gets red, people get disoriented, and that's a condition we call heat stroke. On your way there, you can get heat cramps, you get heat exhaustion, which is basically a stressed body. But a heat stroke is when the body loses the ability to maintain its temperature and the heat takes over and terrible things happen. So for kids, the number one thing to do is make sure they don't get left in the car when it's hot out, really at any time alone.
Right.
And secondly, if they're out in the sun having a good time playing sports, running around, playing hard, make sure they get plenty of water. Make sure someone's watching to see if they get overheated. If it looks like they're getting overheated, let's get them into shade and cooled off before their bodies get overwhelmed.
That was my next question, really paying attention to those signs, to avoid any heat exhaustion or things like that. I guess, is there any other signs before we go that they should be looking out for?
Well, you're in a lot of trouble if someone who, is hot in the sun, which normally makes you red and sweaty, the usual signs of kids having fun. If your skin starts getting cool and clammy and stops sweating, that's a sign the body's sort of overwhelmed. The other terribly dangerous sign is if your child begins to have altered consciousness, stops talking clearly, doesn't walk normally, some sign that their systems just aren't operating normally. Kids who are just a bit warm, having fun, they're sweaty, they're red, they make sense, they're running well, that's not worrisome. But when they get cold and clammy skin, when they stop making sense, that's a real danger sign. At that point, you really need to speak to one of your doctors.
Makes sense. All right. So just paying close attention while we're out in the sun. Thank you so much for spending time with us, Dr. Lavin. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.